I still have my. Hey, John.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Let me get my microphone attached to me. Maybe I'll get rid of my Christmas background. How was your time off? Did you take time off?
I did. I shut down the Friday before Christmas and came back yesterday.
Good for you. I did similar. Felt good. Hard to get
Definitely.
back though. I was like, ah. Hey, Brian. Hey, Jude.
Hello. Brian, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm talking
Hey,
on mute.
hey. How's it going, Brian? Hi, Tracy.
Going
Hey.
well.
John, nice to meet you.
Hello, nice to meet you as well.
I guess I should take my wintry background off.
That's what I just did.
Uh,
Getting some docs set up for you guys too. Hang on just a minute.
Give me 1 second. I'm gonna go off camera for 1 minute and I will be back.
how was everyone's holiday?
I had a nice time. I had a lot of visitors.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that made it kind of busy, but I had fun.
Yeah, so did we. We had usually have our annual brunch that we host at our house, so it's always crazy trying to get everything back to normal. It takes like a full-blown project to do that, but kind of like my schedule every year for the past 20 something years. Like New Year's Day, a little bit of rest, and boom, it's starting to break that tree down.
What you break the tree down the day after Christmas? Is that what you were saying, Jude?
No, I break the tree down the day after New Year's. Yeah,
Right. Okay.
yeah, yeah. That
Me
I have
too.
that's been a construction project of putting it together and bringing it down for 20 years.
That's
That
funny.
tree is finally, we've had to say goodbye to it this year. Yeah.
Yeah, the way my trash pickup aligns, it's Tuesday.
Mm.
So I just took my tree out this morning for trash pickup. So that was a little longer than usual based on where I landed.
Hi, Kate. Nice to meet you.
All right, all of you should have an invite to the shared doc.
Good.
See you again, Kate. Hope
Hey,
you've been doing well.
yeah, doing pretty good. Thank you.
Confirming the invite.
Okay, so we're 4 minutes in. We may have some stragglers, but this was about the group that I was hoping would show up today. So yay, we're all here. I have shared a doc with everyone, and I will share my screen to get this going so we can have some discussion. Okay. So I think what we should do today is just have a casual introductions meeting. I think we should talk about what we'd like to, what goals we'd like to achieve in the next 3 months. I know that sounds like a short period of time, but I don't think we should have very challenging goals for our first 3 months. And then we need to talk about a potential chairperson nomination. So we have somebody who's officially chairing these meetings, other than myself. So if you can make sure that you can get to this document. You see, you should be able to.
I'm there. I found it. I'm just gonna copy. Oh, there it is. Okay, it's already a blog went out today, and then there I just
Yeah, the
posted
blog went
the
out
doc
today.
for anybody that's having trouble finding it in their drive. I just put the link in chat as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks. I was just gonna put that. Yes, we are official. We got a blog announcement out there.
Yeah.
So why don't we do this? Let's do the first thing. Let's just do introductions since we're all considered new attendees. I think everybody knows me, so I'll pass it off. But I can talk a little bit about how this.
Yeah. Can you do that as in place of your
Yeah.
personal introduction? That'd be great.
Yeah. So Jude Wellington, I'll pass him the microphone next.
Mhm,
We were
mhm.
chatting, and he had an interest in really kind of helping and building out the community around the Jenkins community in particular. And I started talking to him and saying, well, we'd like to do that too for Artilius. But really what we need to be able to do, and as we chatted, is have a better forum for talking about what needs to be done in CI/CD. And if we keep that broad, we don't get a lot of action out of that. If we can hone that in, we can potentially start building out that Jenkins community and really understand some of the challenges. In particular, the challenges that most CI/CD teams are facing is the onslaught of new security tooling that they need to add to their CI/CD pipelines, and where it fits in the CI/CD pipelines, because they come out all the time. There's some of the open SSF tools that are coming out. They may have small teams. They may have been written by one, like a bank or a insurance company that they've donated back. But does that work for everybody? Is it commercial enough to be added to a CI/CD pipeline? And where overall should those tools go? So I put my head into it, and we pitched this. So to the CICD, to the CD Foundation's Technology Oversight Committee, with a goal to address the challenges of advancing security tooling within CI/CD pipelines. We'll work on DevSecOps best practices and develop a framework to enable secure pipeline implementation. If you take any time to speak to anybody who's doing CI/CD right now, they know they should put in a software bill of material report. But they don't see that they're going to do anything with that SBOM, so they're not super motivated. They may talk about signing. They may talk about updating their Git actions. They may talk about adding some features around their repos, but they don't really talk about doing anything in the CI/CD pipeline, to be quite honest. And I don't know why. It baffles me. So I'm hoping that in this group, we can work on a real framework that identifies the different security tooling that needs to be added to the CI/CD pipeline, that is open source. I struggle, and this is something we can talk about. I struggle with being too commercial tool focused, but there's no harm in having that discussion and having a list of commercial tools that would fit. Just because if you're a CI/CD engineer, if you're a DevOps engineer and you want to add these things, you may not be able to go drop $100,000 or more on a new tool to do it. So open source is, if we can build it initially around open source and then add some commercial tooling, I think that will benefit the majority of CIC or DevOps engineers. So that's how this came about. The TOC was pretty excited about it. They thought it was a great idea. They did encourage us to work with the Open SSF and other open source secure or open security groups, which is why we reached out to John Linford, and he'll introduce himself as well. So that's how we got here. It was an early discussion between Jude and I will pass that off to Jude.
Thank you. And I really appreciate that. Tracy, Brian Dawson, and we've known each other for many years. When I used to work at CloudBees, I was the event marketing manager over there for almost 8 years. And over those years, I really saw the power of what Jenkins was to the developer world, right? Even though CloudBees, my job was to try and drive as many pipeline influence dollars into our database based on the events that we would produce. The overarching feeling that I felt was Jenkins was so powerful. Everyone that I would come up to, they would always say how great Jenkins has been for them, how much it's helped them, quote unquote, Jenkins has saved my ass many times. And knowing that I had Kosuke Kawaguchi in the same office where I worked, being able to see his presence and how many people just gravitated towards him, even though he's so mild-mannered and so humble, there was a culture there that I started to embrace, and I started to understand that these folks are people that really are wanting to just use this automation tool to help them just get their job done, right? And then CloudBees wants to put this layer on top of it that helped the company, drive more revenue. And there was a bit of a symbiotic relationship there for a little bit. And then things started to change. And all of a sudden, I felt like Jenkins had lost its support. And I didn't know why. It was a really interesting, question. I couldn't get really anyone to answer that. And so I just really have been a very strong supporter of the Jenkins project. I wish I understood why there isn't the proper funding or the necessary, working groups that I was hoping we would see over all these years. And I joined the Jenkins area meetup group, which was known as a jam. And back when that symbiotic relationship between CloudBees and Jenkins, it was actually pretty strong back then. And then all of a sudden it fizzled. And so I just really wanted to try and get back, and I became a member of the San Francisco Jenkins area meetup. I tried to get people interested in wanting to create meetup groups, because one of the core values I have for this community is I like to bring the energy. I like to bring some fun. I like to bring people together. There is a formula that I think is successful when you bring all these ways of idea sharing, your challenges within whatever you're doing, whether it's personal, whether it's work, whether it's professional, career development. All of those things I think really matter within these spaces where we're trying to learn, right? And that's what I really wanted to do, but there wasn't a lot of interest. And I think you have to have resources to do that. And CloudBees, unfortunately, never really had those resources. I tried to go to the Jenkins project. They're like, we don't really have any resources. And I went to Tracy. I'm like, Tracy, what is going on here? What's happening? And we just started to put our heads together. It's like, you know what? We really need to kind of figure this out. Maybe this is beyond Jenkins. Maybe we really need to look at how CI/CD and security can affect what a lot of these Jenkins users are actually going through. And that's kind of where we are today. And my goal is to really try to take these CDF CI/CD meetup groups. There's 5 of them. So we have the West Coast meetup group. We have the group where Tracy lives in Santa Fe. We have Austin. We have Washington, D.C. I don't know why we don't have New York. And so I'm trying to think, is there any, but those are the areas that I think it's a great place for us to start and to start building meetup group presence. So we want to take this SIG and we want to go out to each of these locations and to really start to drive regular meetups. And I think that's one of the goals that we have, is to figure out, we've got to get one on the books in January, February. I am really wanting to build a landing page. I'm going to need some help with that. I've thought maybe sponsors are going to be very important, because I think that's how I'm going to be able to do this, because I can't necessarily do it as a volunteer. So sponsorships are going to be very important on how we financially build this thing. And CloudBees put their hand up and they're like, hey, I'm so glad that you are finally doing something. And I think they're now in a position to really want to be a part of this. And so that's where I'm currently at right now. I have Phil Fougere, who is their field marketing manager, who is our champion, #1. And then we have Ian Kurtz, who is a solutions
Wait, Jude, could you
engineer.
tell me that, what was the first name?
Phil Fougere, Fougere.
Okay, and the other one was Ian.
Ian Kurtz, Kurtz.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and they're both so excited. They can't really wait to figure out how they're going to be able to help. We also have Brad Johnson from AWS. Brian Dawson knows Brad. Tracy, I think you might know Brad. I'm not sure if you do.
I think
but-
I do, but I'm not
Okay.
sure. I think I've met him.
Yeah, he's another champion. He really, really is just so supportive of not just me, but the things that I really want to do to try and drive this idea of building our communities together. There's 2 lofts that AWS has available for us to use. One's in San Francisco and one's in New York, but we don't have a official CI/CD New York meetup group.
That's
So
weird.
we need to create one. We need to figure out how to
Yeah.
get that one up and running. Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's kind of my story. I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area. I've been here for 30 plus years. I kind of know the industry. I actually am a member of a pretty cool group called the Event Professionals Network. There's about 600 of us, and I'm going to, I really want to spread the word and say, I'm looking for help from a venue standpoint, from any kind of content creation standpoint, anything to drive the interest of these members to want to show up and to want to participate. Anything that we can drive to create interest is a huge priority for us, because right now, if you look at the CI/CD West Coast group, there's 1,700 members. Nobody is talking to each other. And why is that? Right? There's
yeah,
enough.
I don't know. It's just, it's weird that we've,
Yeah.
they've, but maybe there's not a lot to talk about,
Maybe
Jenkins is,
there's not a lot to talk about, but maybe there's someone that needs to drive the talking.
well, I think that's what we're gonna do with it. I think I'm hoping that we can create some interest around, vulnerability management
Yeah.
and, security tooling and enhancing Jenkins to do more than just continuous integration and continuous deployment and continuous
Yes.
test. We need it to
Absolutely.
do continuous security.
Continuous security. And that to me, I think would be so great to see people actually show up, for these like in-person meetup groups. I'm hoping we can do a combination of the two. I'm hoping there are some virtuals, but in person is really where I think the magic happens, in my opinion, right? So that's really my goal, is to increase the number of actual attendees. You know, there's this constant formula of less than 30% attend who have registered, right? That number is it's a big challenge for us. So we've got to, I think we have to start small, little by little, we grow it, and the only way we grow it is because of this content that we're creating.
Awesome. I'll go ahead and jump in. Thanks, Jude. And I give a quick introduction to who I am, Brian Dawson. I'm based in San Diego. I am currently working with Tracy as a board member of Ortelius, as well as with Deploy Hub. I formerly worked at the Subversion company, CollabNet. That's where I was working in professional services and sort of stumbled across, for want of a better word, um, Jenkins and True CI CD. That was prior to that. I was at Sony, ran the tools and technology group. And at that point, that was the era of BuildForge and Continuum. And we were working to deploy some automated build management, sort of pre the uptake or movement around continuous integration and continuous delivery. As I moved to CollabNet and worked in professional services, deploying Subversion in corporate environments, I started to get engaged around Jenkins, and really believed that continuous integration and continuous delivery was the future of software development and delivery, and in fact, a necessary part of it to do it at the scale at which we now do it. While working there, I stumbled across an opportunity to go work for Kosuke Kawaguchi, who created Jenkins. So I joined CloudBees as a DevOps evangelist. That resulted in me spending 7 years at CloudBees, deeply in the Jenkins community. 1 foot in the open source side, 1 foot in the commercial side. It also gave me an opportunity there to participate in the founding of the Continuous Delivery Foundation. That's where I had already known Tracy from working with a previous company in my CollabNet days. My time at CloudBees gave me an opportunity to deepen my relationship with Tracy. I eventually left CloudBees to go do some work at the Linux Foundation. That's where I got a closer understanding as to how the CDF and these foundations work. And I also then there got to observe kind of this slowdown of focus on CDF, the body, but also this decrease in focus on the continuous integration, continuous delivery, DevOps conversation. I feel like we saw, from a commercial standpoint, DevOps take over the conversation, but that being more of a categorization and segmentation meant to sell tools. And then a lot of attention go to security because, of course, it's a clear, present, and urgent problem. What I don't think we ever achieved is actually true DevSecOps in the open source continuous delivery space. There's no sort of easy out of the box way to take an open source continuous delivery solution and then deploy that in a way that you are practicing the continuous security that is a component of DevSecOps. So when Tracy and Jude came together to kind of talk about this gap and talk about this need, I was thumbs up and fully on board. So I'm excited to be here and participate with the team.
Thank you, Brian. Let's go to Kate next. Oh, you're muted, Kate. You're still muted.
There we
you
go. Rookie mistake here.
Mhm.
So I am a cybersecurity architect by trade. I worked for IBM for over 20 years. I went back to get my Master's of Science in Information Security way back in 2004. And when I graduated in 2006, there was only 4 people in my graduating class. So it was really at the very beginning of cybersecurity, and I did my thesis on securing the electrical grid in North America. which meant that I became a subject matter expert for all critical infrastructure, pharmaceutical, chemical, manufacturing. I am very big in, so one of the things that I believe very much in free. And one of the things that I have seen disturbingly so is like Groundhog's Day. Meaning that it's just, I feel as if we have overwhelmed the industry, not only from applications, but from networking, from database, from cloud. And we are chasing, like if we were playing soccer, it's like we are chasing the ball and we're not forming up any really sound defense as to prevent the goals. And we do a lot of boutique solutions. So if there's a vulnerability, even though we have a tool that may not handle that vulnerability perfectly, we'll go out and get another tool. And what's happened is as you walk into a company, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that there will be 120 different tools, security tools from 80 different vendors. And that in itself is a security vulnerability. So how do we do more with less has been something that I have really looked into. I'm not working right now. So I went over to, from IBM, I went to McAfee, worked on a security operations center. And from there, I went to Micro Focus, where I was a chief information security architect. And from that position, I went into, because I'm really into Internet of Things, 44 billion devices that are not secure. Nothing to worry about, folks. Yeah, just running our critical infrastructure. We're good though. All is good.
Hey,
And
could you
so-
talk a little bit about your document that we've already started to play with? Let me see if I can bring it
Yeah.
up and share it with everybody.
So it's something John, is something I shared that we were building with the open group. So basically, when you're looking at security, and as you guys know, it's not just, yeah. So it's not just applications, right? It's not just from a network point of view. It's not just services. And what I saw while working with, large organizations is that service groups did not want things to be easier, because in so doing, they would lose billable hours. And that's a problem for companies. So I think when we look at security and trying to do free, we have to look at it. How can we get, I think, the most bang for your buck? How can we get like one tool, free tool, to do as many things as possible within that tool? Because we just have too many. Looking at trying to create a dashboard, which is something that we've been trying to do within Orchilius, has been phenomenal, because I think it's a great way to see the problem that we're having, especially as, there's a lot of different models out there, right? We talked about MITRE, we've talked about NIST in our group with Orchilius. And so how do we get the best model out there that makes the most sense from a vertical perspective as well? So from retail to energy to, to everything in between, we need to, I'm sure, as you guys know, that the bad guys, I would often talk about, our crowdsourcing. And they're doing a phenomenal job of crowdsourcing. They have, for $3,000, you can go on the dark web, and, get 24/7 support for malware. So we are the antithesis from a cybersecurity point of view. We think, oh no, we don't want to share it all. Let's and it's crushing us. And we think somehow, so open source and being open about what we're doing, I think will get us ahead of this threat, as we used to talk about. So I think that there's, you talk about New York, Jude, I'm actually I'm in southern Maine. I'm by Portsmouth, New Hampshire. What about
Mhm.
Boston? Boston's a,
Yeah.
Boston would be another good one. It would be an
Boston would be
excellent one.
great.
it's
Yes.
only, an hour away from me. And I would love to do something in that, in that area. And I would love, I would love to talk about cybersecurity workshops. Like, how do we do this? What is a way that we can go in and as a person who started where it used to be, like 3 months long to 3 days to I have this down now to 4 hours, baby. So just to get a really good view as to what we have or what companies have, what they're using, what should be thrown out just because it doesn't, it may be just meeting this one need that they had. An event happened 2 years ago, and yeah, I'm willing. I would love to do something like that and kick it off as a way to for free, to just say, hey, use these tools, use these questions to find out what you have in the environment. And I think,
So,
yeah,
so
go ahead.
Kate, could you talk a little bit about some of your concerns about having worked on these kinds of teams before? We chatted a little bit about the security model and getting it out the door. I just want you to express those kind of very valid concerns about doing work like this and it not going anywhere.
Right. Um, so, and I think it sounds like we're all experiencing that, right? It's like we create something and it doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
I mean, that's sort of what you're talking about, Tracy, right? This idea.
Yes, uh-huh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I know that we've all been involved in, like, we create these, and put a lot of effort, and then it just seems to drop, and then it seems like we're doing it again. I think it's important to work within an industry standard that hasn't gone anywhere for a while, like NIST. And I really love MITRE. They're in my backyard, actually, in the Boston area, Andover. And that might be an approachable place to go. But it is, I think there's a lot of competing interest, which then sort of stops any movement from anything going further. I think that that's something that happens just from working within large organizations. You have groups working against each other. And is that sort of what you're talking about, Tracy? And
Yeah, yeah, when there's things that are, I mean, we talked about this on a private call. There are, the Open Source Security Foundation, they have the Sterling tool chain. We have best practices. We have quite a few teams that are trying to do this.
yeah,
But, are we repeating work? I say we're not, because I feel like if we are successful at really building a model that we can take to the Jenkins community. Jenkins Jenkins is the primary CDF tool out there, to be quite honest. Spinnaker has lost some interest. Tekton is probably going to go to CNCF. So if we can really focus on the Jenkins
Yeah.
community and bring a model to them, I feel like we can avoid the problem that you're expressing, especially if we work with Jude and putting together, some meetups and have, conversations with those meetups on a consistent basis. So for example, we would do, as you talk about, and I don't want to jump too far off because we still have John to hear about, you talk about cybersecurity workshops. We could create those meetups as workshops and say, we're going to just do the dev stage. What security tools should you be adding to your dev stage? And do it in a workshop format. That would be a very interesting thing if we could pull that off.
And
I
even
don't know if we could, but I believe if we bring more people into into the boat here, that, we'll have more people rowing, we'll have a better chance of succeeding.
and really talk about it from a capability standpoint, right? I mean, the idea that, when I'm a big do-it-yourselfer, and I always have my Leatherman in the car. It's a multi-tool.
Mhm.
And it's something that will pretty much get a lot done for me. And I think that, there's a lot of capabilities within the Leatherman. And so I think from that point of view, if we approach it from a capability standpoint, we're not going to be offending anybody from a standpoint of what type of tools that we have. And just one last thing before we get over there to John, I also believe that we really need to be open with what we're doing. Crowdsourcing, we have to be the antithesis of what we think of what we've done in the past, because what we're doing in the past, it's not working. And if I have to do it one more time and fail one more time at how we do this, it's going to crush me, guys. I mean, come on. I think I really believe we're going about this wrong. And I believe that the bad guys have, the bad actors, threat actors have this right in their crowdsource effort.
Hmm. That is really fascinating.
John,
Hello.
last but certainly not least, no doubt. John brings a lot to this conversation.
Nice to see you,
John and
John.
Kate they're our secret weapons, no doubt.
Mhm.
Hello, everyone. I was introduced to this group through Tony Corrado, who looks like he couldn't make it today, so hopefully he'll get on at some point in the near future. He actually introduced me to Tracy, gosh, what was that, 3 years ago now, when it was
Probably,
still
yeah.
Experience IT New Mexico, and it's now the New Mexico Tech Summit or something like that. So I work for a company called the Open Group. We are an international standards organization. In my role, I am the director of our security forum, which manages sort of the cybersecurity side of things, our Open Trusted Technology Forum, which is more of the supply chain security side, and our Assured Dependability Work Group, which is looking at integrating security into your enterprise architecture development and management processes. In my role, I get to work with lots of different organizations, all of the members of the Open Group. Our current chair of the security forum is Mark Simos from Microsoft. So I get to work with a decent number of Microsoft folks, regularly chat with MITRE, especially around the supply chain side of things. I also get to regularly travel and attend any number of different conferences. In a few weeks, I'm going to be at the next NIST slash DHS slash CISA slash da 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 da, hosted by MITRE, Software and Supply Chain Assurance Forum, SSCA. Those are held roughly 3 times a year in the McLean, Virginia MITRE campus. It looks like the agenda for the one at the end of this month actually will have somebody from the Linux Foundation on a panel. So they're at least aware of the Linux Foundation. So, there's a possibility of
Do you
getting,
know who it is?
it
Just out of curiosity.
is, let's see, I had the agenda open. Dave Wheeler.
Oh, darn it.
Oh, I know Dave Wheeler.
Yeah, we do know Dave Wheeler,
Is it the Dave
Us-
Wheeler? I'm thinking.
probably.
What is Dave Wheeler's title?
The agenda does not
He's like,
say.
he's one of the, I don't remember, but what he has written a training program for adding security to your development process that has gotten about 9,000 people taking it so far. So he'll be an interesting one on there.
Yeah, it looks like he's on a panel this time around OMB M2218 and open source software. So it should be an interesting panel, I'm assuming. These are always pretty good.
Be sure and introduce yourself to him and let him
Definitely.
know that you're working on this particular project.
Absolutely. So that was going to be something I suggested for ways that I might be able to contribute, since I am at regularly these kinds of things, regularly interacting with folks. good opportunity for me to kind of spread awareness, get feelers out, see what people are thinking, direct them toward this kind of thing. Within where I think it's going to be most relevant for what I'm involved in is our security forum, or the cybersecurity side. We're actively working on standards around zero trust architecture. Big emphasis there on making sure that they are practicable, implementable by organizations kind of any size. So, your really small organizations are going to have different requirements from your massive ones, but the principles and stuff should be consistent across them, even if you've got varying levels of resources to actually implement and maintain.
Do you think that those zero trust policies, do you think some of that zero trust could be built into the pipeline and automated?
I think so. I think that's a good opportunity to at least get people thinking about it. The zero trust sort of mindset is shift security as far to the left as possible into development. So if we're able to kind of build off of that and get people thinking about it from the beginning, then hopefully that's a slightly easier way to get people actually doing it as well.
If I
Yes.
could just add something, like, if you don't mind, I'm sorry for interrupting you, John, but Tracy, to your last, like, the whole Groundhog's Day thing, we always get something like zero trust, defense in depth. I mean, we get these things, and it doesn't, we build on it, but at the end of the day, and no offense against anybody who believes in zero trust, it just it collapses because there's a lot of things that happen as we start to build on the zero trust. It basically becomes a whole other defense in depth type of idea, which was something else, It- it- so we get buzzwords and we build on the buzzwords, and then there's a collapse. So I don't know if that, so when you were asking, like, why does it keep shifting and repeating, it's it really almost becomes a moving target. It's something that fails, I think, at the end of the day.
Because we have to make it easy.
Was that
That's
really the
the-
solution, is to make
We
it?
have to make it easy. If we understand, if we have people like John doing research on topics like zero trust, and then we have clear definitions of what somebody who's just trying to get through their day, a
Right.
DevOps engineer who just is literally trying to get through the day, and say, if you want to add some entry-level zero trust capabilities in your security model, here's some simple things that you can do. It has to be very, here's a script you can add here. It's got to be easy. Otherwise, people just don't have time to figure out what they may want to achieve zero trust, but they've got to be shown easily how you can get it done. And for every single language, it's different.
Uh, I'd beg, and John, sorry, I know we're in the middle of your introduction, but this
Yeah.
is something I want to plant a seed for later. And I won't even get into detail. I think a lot of it has to do with the commercialization, which bastardizes the buzzwords and takes the focus. And the reality is we don't have the funding or necessarily the skill set in a lot of these open source initiatives, or coming out of a lot of the standards bodies, frankly, to take this stuff to market in a way that it cuts to the noise, gets to the implementers, and gives it to them in a way that they can implement it quickly. By the time we get there, the next person trying to capture a market has convoluted the whole idea of zero trust.
Mm.
Right.
Right on.
So I'm going to put one of our goals is to bring more security implementers to our calls. Because it would be fabulous if we had a group here that wanted to share the hard work that they have already done to achieve some of these, what we're calling buzzwords, zero trust, for example. What could we do to shine a light on them? Because then they would be our people who would be going to, the Jenkins meetups. They might be the people who are helping with building these cybersecurity workshops. I haven't taken the cybersecurity course that David Wheeler put together. I do not think it has anything to do with adding anything to your DevOps pipeline, though. It's probably more high level than that. There's nothing that is, I think with this team, we need to be able to produce a model that allows a DevOps platform engineer to pop open the hood, see what we did, see what we're recommending, and easily implement it.
I definitely agree. I think something else we really need to think about is connecting the value of actually implementing security to their day jobs. If they've got a list of 150 things they need to get done in a day and 4 of them have security in it, where in their priority list is that really going to fall? So we really need to be able to connect down to the individual implementer, down to the people actually doing the day-to-day stuff, why they should care. Just telling them, beating them over the head with, we need to have security, you need to be doing this absolutely needs to be included, is going to keep us in this same cycle. As soon as we can connect the value of their job with security to the broader organization or their broader role in the environment, ecosystem, industry, whatever word we want to use, hopefully that will get us some more receptive sort of practitioners. And that's really something that, with the work that we're doing on Zero Trust, something that we're really trying to lean on. Our work got started because we realized back in, 2018, 2019, that Zero Trust was a buzzword. Vendors were selling products, buy our black box, and you've done Zero Trust, and that's just not the way it is. So we're really leaning on Zero Trust just being sort of the label for modern security, getting security into the mind of the developers from the beginning, making sure everybody understands their role also has a security component to it, regardless of what they're doing. I'll lean on Mark's favorite saying that security is a team sport. So really emphasizing the people aspect of it as well, I think, is going to be critical here. As much as we might think we have great ideas, if the people aren't actually agreeing with it being necessary, it's not going to happen.
And that takes us right back to where we started, which is you're saying, hey, you implementers, this is something you want to do. We need to connect the value of adding security to their jobs. We also need to connect the value of adding security to Jenkins, right?
Yeah.
Because that brings Jenkins's relevance. It elevates Jenkins' relevance in the same way it would elevate the relevance of somebody who has taken on some security tooling in the CI/CD pipeline. So I think that tells me we are absolutely all on the same page. So we have 15 minutes. Thank you everybody for those awesome introductions. We do have all the right people in the room. I truly believe that. I just want to go over some of these the goals that I captured as we were talking. I think that the Jenkins meetups has become obvious why we feel like going to the Jenkins meetups is important. We can take things like Zero Trust and shifting that into development and build that into our security models and have it on Zero Trust at some of these meetups. So I feel as if what we're almost saying is that in the next 3 months, we would like to build out a program for Jenkins meetups around these topics. So I'm just going to put Jenkins meetup program and build relevance for Jenkins and DevOps engineers. So one of our goals is to allow to create a platform, to create a way for DevOps engineers to be important again. I mean, we used to be so important, but now we're not so important anymore. But I think it's because we've done too good of a job and everything's just running and nobody thinks about it. But on the other hand, I believe that DevOps has lost a lot of steam. And this Christmas, American Airlines, Christmas Eve morning, did a release that broke a report, mind you, a report, and it took them an hour to do a rollback. And in that hour, hundreds of people were stranded because they missed their connections.
Oh, no.
My friend who was coming out to see us spent the night, Christmas Eve, at Dallas Fort Worth and didn't even get a hotel. Because they couldn't figure out how to do a rollback. within 5 minutes, as soon as they realized they couldn't generate a critical report that allowed a plane to leave the gate. I mean, it's ridiculous. DevOps, if we were doing DevOps well, that stuff would never happen again, right? So
Well, think about
DevOps is, pardon, Kate?
CrowdStrike is, I mean, you know, not being
I
able to,
know.
yeah.
I know. It's just like, yeah, that was worse, but it didn't, it didn't have, why would you ever do a release on Christmas Eve?
Yeah,
Why? That was just stupid.
you
I'm
might as well
sorry,
get
it
to
was really
abuse you
stupid.
if you're really gonna do
Yeah.
it right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll flat just at risk of a tangent, Tracy. I'm hearing all of this, and based on all of our experiences and the work we're doing today, the funny thing is, I think solving the technical and process problem of DevOps and cybersecurity is, I think we're at a point where it's fundamentally not that hard. Uh, we're dealing with a social problem, right? Of getting people focused on it, getting it adopted. And so I just want to flag that as almost Jude, where a lot of your role in bringing events together and people together and driving and drawing interest is going to be an important part of this
It
motion.
is huge, yes. Can I ask a question? So it looks like I'm on the Jenkins.io page and Alpha Omega Foundation Content Security Policy Grant for
Yeah.
the Jenkins project. Can someone help me understand what that is?
So Alpha Omega is a very well-funded project under the Open Source Security Foundation.
Okay,
And they've been around for a while. Their original mission was to help secure the top most popular Jenkins open source projects that are part of the Linux Foundation or otherwise. And they get a pretty good chunk of cash from Google to manage all of this. Alpha Omega is a Google funded project.
okay.
So you can take your open source project and you can go to the Alpha Omega team and say, we're having trouble, with this level of securing Jenkins, and they'll give you funding to help pay your open source developers to get the work done. So that's what that is. So they got a $50,000 grant or something like that to do the work. Not big, but it's something.
It's something.
Yeah. Now, at least Jenkins, this is for Jenkins itself. Remember, it's not a feature added to Jenkins in particular.
I have a talking about getting sponsorship and stuff like that. Just
Yeah.
I wonder, what if we went to cyber insurance companies and approached it from the standpoint of going back into if the vulnerabilities are coming from within the code as the first part of the attack,
Hmm.
and somebody had the ability to secure code coming out and go through a process, would cyber insurance become less expensive if they could pass a certain test? And thus focusing back on DevSecOps and at the same time bringing money in without it being commercialized.
I think it's I was thinking of that yesterday. So Kate, you and I are on some kind of weird wavelength. So I
Yeah,
wonder how
wow.
if we could bring in these cyber insurance companies, because you would think that this would be something they would be interested in. So let's put that in.
And get like a just like we do alert cons, like a 1 through 5 type of idea. I wonder if we developed within an insurance a way to develop, like, you pass certain measures, so you're at a 3, almost like car insurance, this idea, if you've been in an accident, your rates go
Yeah.
up.
How well are you doing? How do they evaluate what your insurance is going to cost? Are you doing absolutely nothing?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
going to be
I mean, sort
expensive.
of.
Yeah,
There's always policies, right? Or you should have policies, right?
there
And if
is.
you don't have
And there's,
policies, right there.
I've worked in insurance for a long time, and I don't know how they're doing their actuaries in this area. I really don't know what they're basing it on. I could tell you on car, I could tell you on medical, but I have no idea how they would do it on this, because they've got to evaluate the maturity level of the development team or the network or the production team. I don't know what they're basing it on, but it's a great, I put it in here as a potential for sponsorships.
Yeah.
And security tooling companies. We definitely need to reach out to security tooling companies.
Okay.
So before we got 5 minutes left, the last topic that we need to cover is we should do nominations for a chairperson in our next call. We should have somebody who is identified as the point of contact on this project, other than myself. So if it's something that you're interested in doing, let's chat about it in the next call. And I want to push it off to the next call because I want to be able to bring in, I want to see if we can't encourage more people to be involved. Which is the last thing I'd like to say before our 4 minutes here is up and it's 10:30, is if you know of anyone that should be in this room, let's see if you can bring them in this room for next month.
Yeah.
If we want to do work together between now and our next meeting, let's do it. I would encourage everybody to start taking a look at Kate's model.
And so the open source that came from the open group. I worked.
Yes, this was a project she worked with John. So we'll just call it John and Kate's initial model at the open group when she was doing work with the open group. We want to take their work. We don't want to, again, just like we talked about, this is work that's already been done. We want to take this and we want to build upon it, and maybe take a look at it. We really have to look at this from the eyes of someone who is a DevOps engineer. So I want to be able to show it in that format. I want to be able to show it in one page for dev, one page for test, one page for prod, or deployment, however we want to build out the stages. And I want to start building out in these example tooling where these what the tools are that would fit into those stages. Which means that we probably need to, one of our first things that we need to do is we probably need to add another tab to this and just create a tab that is open source security tooling, and then figure out where it goes.
That's a great idea. And I'll work on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, take a look at the OpenSSF and maybe look at some of their projects. Let's just get them captured though. What are some of the open source tools that we should be looking at and talking about? And just as a starting point. Because I've read through this and there's a ton of really solid information in here that really can, I think if we can simplify it and bring, whatever the person needs, and that we have such short attention spans anymore that we have to make it so easy for a DevOps engineer to go, I'm going to go look at the 3C security model and see what I need to be doing at dev.
Yeah.
And what it achieves, right? Is it a zero trust? Maybe we have to create that connection to say what it's achieving in that. So I think the tools and the achievements we have to get on a page. And then we can then start backing it out and saying, here's the perfect this perfect DevSecOps model that you should be following. And if we can do that, potentially we can get some of the implementers to write some of the Jenkins plugins, or at least a command line interface to make it work for Jenkins. We're not going to worry about any other tools unless everybody says, Tracy, you're on the wrong path. I think right now we attack it from a Jenkins perspective and make Jenkins really pulling its weight when it comes to security. I think it'll give us a lot of runway here.
I agree with Jenkins. I believe it gives us a real world application that is a great entry point or portal. Just a quick question, Kate or John, is there any way to get a full resolution or version of the diagram on the second tab? Does that live somewhere? This right here, because a lot of the text, I can't read the text in the doc.
We use attachment. You could probably bring anything.
All right. No, I'm assuming this was built in Visio?
No, it was a tool.
Okay.
No, it wasn't Visio.
Okay. And so it's not easy to get to the original source doc, I'm assuming. So that's fine. I'll figure it out.
No,
It's a
it,
really good place for us to start. Maybe we have to, it would be nice if there was a way we could do something like this in Markdown. And I don't
Mhm.
know if that's possible.
So at the time, I don't know, because Micro Focus was a part of, I can help on that. So guys, don't, I'll look for something free.
Yeah, we'll need to have something that allows us to do something of this
To
sort.
extend this, modify it, recreate it.
The modifying is the thing. That's why if we could come up with, even if it wasn't as elegant as this, if it's something we could do in Markdown, I think
Okay.
it'll be better because then people can contribute to it easily. So maybe we just have a section under, requirements to deploy. And somehow we have to represent this data. Not sure how, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
Cool.
So I
We
just
have a
put
ways to go.
I put a link in the chat to the IT for IT forum, which is where the value stream concept comes from in the table, and where sort of some of this structure originates from. So it might be worth taking a look at the IT for IT reference architecture. I think they're on version 3 or 3.1 now. It's free to download, free to get into. Just need to have an account with the open group, which is just an email address and a password.
Perfect.
Is anyone going to FOSDEM in Brussels? There's the Jenkins Contributor Summit that's
It's
taking
happening.
place. Yeah, February 2nd. And their agenda, they're talking, they're going to go through everything, the board report, infrastructure, officer report. I think it was a great opportunity to try and put something in as part of their agenda. I'm not sure how to do that, but I can ask Alyssa Tong. Brian, do you stay in touch with Alyssa Tong at all?
No, funny is, yeah, no, Alyssa, no, I've tried to reach out to her a couple of times, but haven't been able to connect. So,
Okay.
which is funny because she's only like, she's in the
Yeah, she's your
neighborhood.
neighbor.
Yeah.
All right, I will reach out to her and see how
Yeah.
it would be
Uh,
nice to add something, right? Like this SIG. I would like to let that group know that this is what we're trying to focus on the Jenkins community first,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, Jude, can you find out if they're gonna have dial-in or virtual participation in the contributor summit?
Okay, I will do that.
And if there's somebody that the two of you might know from your Jenkins experience that we could at least inform them what we're up to and they could bring it up for us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would be
like
another one. I'm sure.
I know
Sorry.
Mark Waite. I definitely know Mark Waite and Alyssa. So those two I can reach out to.
I also think Damien DePortal would
Oh yeah,
actually be.
Damien. I don't know Damien as well as I know Mark. And then
So
Bruno.
Mark, I
Acton.
think Mark's not a good choice because he's always got so much on his plate anyway, because he's pretty much the primary contributor now. Yeah, and so he's got a lot of things that he's focused on.
Okay.
If we could find somebody else who doesn't have their hands quite so full.
Okay. I'll
Dude,
reach
if
out
you
to
have, and I'd hate to throw it to you, I do have a lot on
Yeah.
my plate right now.
Sure.
Is there the possibility that you can just pull me into your outreach to Alyssa and or Damien DePortal, that you could drive the discussion with Damien?
Yeah, I will.
That would be awesome.
Okay.
And then one last thing, before we do jump, we do have this. This is out. This is a blog that was sent out, that went out today about who we are, how to get involved. So you can always refer over to this for, the joining, the mailing list, all this stuff is right here. Super easy to get to. So this how to join, who should join. And
Yeah.
then these documents are ones that we really should be looking at. So if you could take the time and maybe at least review them. Because just like the document that John shared with us, the IT for IT, and Kate's model that she worked with the Open Group, this is work that's already been done. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. So I feel like we should be looking at the secure software development framework doesn't have a lot of new things in it. That's my problem with it. And I think we should be adding some of the new things. But it's all interesting to read. And we need to also, once we get one thing done, we're going to look at the next step would be, what do we need to do for LLMs? Is there new stuff that needs to be brought in for securing new projects that include new technology for Jenkins?
Awesome.
And the other big step is we need to decide on what is our first meetup going to look like. Is it a virtual meetup? Is it an in-person meetup? What city are we focusing on, right? Does it matter what city we focus on? That type of thing. So, and
Yes.
it's resources. It is resource driven. We need revenue to host, you know, the space. We need audiovisual equipment. We need, you know, we need food and beverages and all that kind of stuff, right? Those are all really important, and that takes money. We have to, and so the landing page idea, having us create our own landing page, right? I think, Tracy, we are in agreement that we should create our own landing page. I just need to
Oh,
figure
yeah. Yes,
who's good.
100%.
I need some
And-
help I just need to figure out who can help me create this landing page and then create that sponsorship prospectus, because CloudBees wants to support us. But I want to make sure that CloudBees understands that they need to be in, I don't know how to, I think we need to kind of figure out who the right sponsors are that are somewhat agnostic in this idea of, we don't, you know, there has to be a message, right? There
Yeah.
has to be some way of telling our sponsors, like, look, we don't want a lot of the noise that I know your money will drive, because you want to send that message, because you have your priorities of the leads that you want to generate from these type of events. We get it, but we also need you to be super clear on what our
Yeah, I think
game
we
is.
we
Yeah.
could solve it. I think we could work. Oh, sorry, Kate. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. You go first.
Just Jude, let's you and I grab some time between now and next meeting, possibly to discuss with that. And I also think let's maybe plug in Jim Schultz
Yes.
in
Okay.
terms of just getting an appropriate perspective together. Of course, he's proven the ability to be able to get sponsorships in a non-disruptive way with NADOG and Eurodog.
Yeah.
And I'll
Okay.
start working on a landing page. It will be in Markdown. Jude, are you going to be okay with Markdown? If not, I can
I
show
don't
you.
know Markdown, but I'm willing to learn.
You'll learn it fast. It's not hard.
Yeah.
So
And
let me see if I can get something stood up
Okay.
that we could just work on. It may be pretty brief, but it'll be something.
Yeah.
instead of going to like big places for sponsorship, you know, one of the biggest markets that I think out there is small to medium businesses, local
Yeah.
governments.
Mhm.
Why don't
Your
we?
idea of insurance companies, Kate, is brilliant. Definitely.
Well, it's part of Tracy's as well. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't say it though.
why don't we, I mean, because there's so many, at least in the New England area, you know, getting in touch with the local, you know, law enforcement, the local organizations,
Mm.
local businesses, small business administration, you know, all those types of groups willing to be hosting from, again, from the whole crowdsourcing idea from
Yeah.
those, from the many instead of the one,
Yeah.
might again make it more intrusive from a commercial standpoint.
Right. Any companies, like you had mentioned, MITRE, if they're willing to
Yeah.
host any
Yeah.
type of meetups at
Yeah,
their
especially because
corporate
they're
headquarters
research,
or
right?
anything like that,
Yeah.
any corporate headquarter auditoriums or meeting spaces, I think would be very helpful as well.
Could we do like a school even? Like a-
Absolutely, a
We
school
can,
would
yeah.
be amazing. Yes.
So in the interest of everybody's time here, I want
Yeah.
to end the meeting, but I do want to
Right.
say that we want to make sure we don't get the cart, the horse, and the cart in front of the horse.
Yep.
Let's make sure we have our ducks in a row and we know what we're
Absolutely.
selling and we're taking it out to
Exactly.
people. So
Yeah.
we do need,
Can't do anything
I
without
think,
that. Yeah.
I think getting in the next month, if we could all look at that security model and start thinking about ways it can be rewritten, and then in next month, this time, we're not going to be talking about anything except that security model, and hopefully I'll have a landing page stood up.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. Hey, thank you, everybody. I so much appreciate everybody's time and interest in this project, because I think
Oh,
it's
this one's
super
going to be good.
worthwhile. I
Yeah.
think so
This
too.
one's going to be a good one. Yeah.
We have a
I can
really
already-
good team.
I
We have
can
an
already
amazing
tell.
team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks all.
Okay.
And nice
Happy
to
New
meet
Year.
you, John.
Everyone.
Best.
Bye, John.
Yeah.
Bye.
Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you too.